the last option is the lending. And this is to lend and to borrow as well. So here you have all the different assets. You have the, right now is in lend, but if you click here, we can swap into borrow, and you can tell because the numbers turn red. When you're in lending, it's green because it means you're depositing those tokens, and those tokens are then available for somebody else to borrow. And the borrower pays the lender. So you can play both sides of the game. And here you can see how much you get paid by supplying a token into the pool itself. And we can see that, for example, Sol pays 2% per year, Jito Sol pays 0.1, and that number depends on how many people on the other side are borrowing. So it's going to fluctuate in real time, driven fully by market demand. One thing to notice is that you see these little logos that appear here, like this one and this one. And they appear there because these are being subsidized. At the moment, this token is the Blaze token. The Blaze token is giving away free Blaze tokens to anyone that holds the B Sol, because that's their version of the liquid staking Sol. And MSol is doing the same thing with their own token, which is the MNDE. And this is by the Marinade protocol that we will look into in a different episode. But yes, those two are the only ones that are being subsidized. And that's why, for example, BSol, which is a staking token, has a lot more earnings than the JitoSol, which is another liquid state token. Or even the LST, the one that we just minted, has very little earnings because it's not being incentivized at this stage. Now, the next thing that you will see is that the weight. Here you see a percentage. This percentage means that, for example, if I deposit $100 of JitoSol, I can borrow against it 65% of the value. So if I deposit $100, I can only borrow 65. And if I go over, then I enter into liquidation risk, which you should never do. Then the deposit, of course, is how much people have deposited at this stage right now. This is all information that is on chain. So that's the beautiful thing, is that we can see everything in real time. So at the moment, there is more than 1 million, which is crazy. And of those million, 973,000 are being able to borrow. It's crazy. And it has a limit of 2 million. So if there was 2 million here, then we could not deposit anymore into the lending pool. It has a maximum amount, a cap, and it cannot go higher. And the utilization rate is the difference between how many people are lending versus how much people are borrowing. So at the moment, this one, for example, has 9%, so it's pretty low. But you can see that Sol is 41%. So that's a lot of people are borrowing Sol, and USDC has 84%. So that one is almost tapped out. And yeah, and you can see there's a lot of tokens that you can choose from to both borrow and lend. We can see here that, for example, Jupiter has reached the limits. So we cannot deposit any more Jupiter tokens. There's a bunch of tokens that you can borrow and lend. Dust has also reached the limit. Stake Sol is very close to the limit. And then the isolated pools, these are for more risk tokens. And there's a bunch of restrictions that, for example, you cannot borrow 2 different tokens from the isolated pool because that means too much risk. So if you want to do the isolated pools, you have to be careful, and you have to be more careful in general. And there's a bunch of more tokens there. If you see here in the corner, we have the light and pro version. So if you close to light, you can there's a lot less information. It's much more restrictive, but you can just choose the token that you want and either lend or borrow. I like to see the pro version because then you can actually see all the information. It's much, much clearer.